Hello everyone, and let's talk about AMD Ryzen, which if you don't know what that is, it is the new set of CPUs from AMD, ironically enough. The current ones that are out are the Ryzen 7 ones. Now they are designed to compete with the Intel Core i7 series, and there's been a lot of controversy surrounding various big sort of tech channels and tech reviewers. People are accusing them of being biased towards Intel, and I first off, without this, that's bullshit. I think if Intel was paying a journalist or a big tech YouTuber to I think any company paying any sort of journalist or YouTuber for sort of a favorable product review, I think is total bullshit, because wouldn't you get more attention? Wouldn't you get more money, more hits, more views, more respect in that sense if you just exposed them? I think it's bullshit. Like people saying, oh, Nintendo are paying to give, Zelda Breath of the Wild 10 out of 10 reviews. If you were a games journalist and you were paid, you'd get far more hits if you exposed that, rather than doing the review. Wouldn't you? Just expose that. So I think it's total bullshit, because I don't think Intel would have enough to pay off every single big tech YouTube channel. I just don't think I don't think it makes sense. It doesn't make any sense in any sort of reality for Intel to do that. I mean, AMD, it is a big improvement. Ryzen 7s are a big improvement. I see a lot of other sort of smaller tech channels. I see them comparing the Ryzen 7 1700 to the Core i5 range, like the i5 6600K versus the Ryzen 1700, and that's a very flawed test. And I'll tell you the reason for that is that the price brackets are totally different for those CPUs. Ryzen 7 is around the $300 mark, and the Core i5 sit in the sort of $200 odd price range. So there's a different price bracket there. So how can you really compare them favorably without putting in price to performance? Because that's the thing I think that most people care about when they're upgrading or when they're buying or building a new PC. What is the best price to performance? Obviously, if you're paying more, you're going to get more performance. But then if you're paying sort of above $300 for a CPU, you're not going to consider the Core i5. And if you can't afford, if it's out of your budget, $300 for a CPU, you wouldn't consider the Ryzen 7. Bear in mind there is the Ryzen 5 coming soon. There's the Ryzen, I think there's the 1600 and the 1500 that they're called. They are going to be, I think, 6 core, 12 threads they're going to be. Ryzen 7 is 8 core, 16 threads as well, which is overkill in terms of gaming. It does really well, the Ryzen 7, apparently, in video production. So if you're a content creator, that's what they're marketing them towards, is people who are into production, content creation. That's what the Ryzen 7 is being marketed towards. As a gaming CPU, it does fine. I've seen some of the benchmark results, and the differences are laughable. They're marginal. I mean, maybe sort of 4 to 5 FPS in favor of the equivalent i7s, and that is nothing. If you're getting like 114 FPS on a Ryzen 7, and then you're getting 117 FPS on a i7, honestly, that's not noticeable. Let's be honest. You're barely going to notice the difference. And that's not to say that the Ryzen 7 is then a bad gaming CPU. Okay, if they're both the same price, you buy the i7. If the Ryzen is slightly cheaper, then whatever you want to buy, essentially. But there's no... It's not as if the difference is 20 or 30%. Like, it's a noticeable difference with Ryzen 7. Then, obviously, you'd buy the i7 at the same price point, because it's just way better performance. But at the similar price to performance, again, you have to take into consideration when I'm buying a CPU other factors. Like, how well does it overclock? Again, Intel do charge you a premium for K-series CPUs if you want to overclock them. The good thing about all those Ryzen 7 CPUs is that even the 1700, the 1700X, and the 1800 all of them are unlocked multipliers. You gotta also take into consideration things like the memory. Apparently they're having issues, but again, Ryzen will be sorted out with BIOS updates. They're having issues with the RAM clock speed as well. They're struggling to get it above 2666 megahertz. On the Intel, you can get it up to sort of 3200 megahertz RAM. Again, it doesn't make a huge difference while gaming, particularly at 1080p. I would say it's not going to make, no, it's not going to be a night and day difference at that kind of resolution. If you're pushing ultimate sort of 4K and you're doing video production, it might make a slight difference there as well as you push the CPU further, obviously. As well, things like cooling performance is a thing. It does run, I think it only has a 95 watt TDP, which is quite good. Again, it's very similar. My i5 Skylake, same 95 watt TDP. The 1700 only has a 65 watt TDP, so that's pretty decent for the Ryzen 7. But the biggest question, I guess, is it worth buying a Ryzen CPU right now? And I would suggest to you, like any new tech that comes out, I suggest you wait 6 months before you buy it. If you're going to buy it, just wait. You know, wait 6 to 8 months. That's what I did. I bought my Skylake again about sort of 9 months after it came out. I bought my GTX 1070 just there this month, right at the beginning of March, and you know, it was been out for about 8 or 9 months. So I tend to just wait a while. Again, things like BIOS updates for motherboards will improve Ryzen 7. So I'm not saying don't buy Ryzen 7, it sucks. Just wait. If you want to buy a PC just now, then yeah, maybe buying a Skylake or a Kaby Lake system might just be more stable at the moment. Bear in mind as well that Ryzen is new, you know, because we could discuss technical issues with it being new, but also the laws of supply and demand have to come in as well, because bear in mind there, when a product is new, there's generally high demand and generally limited supplies. This in turn drives prices up, okay? So basically, if you wait a few months, you start to see prices will drop. You know, you'll get prices on these cards will come down, really, and that's a good thing. I think it's a good thing, and we really want to see, well, I think what the CPU market really does need is competition. I hope Ryzen does well. As someone who owns an Intel CPU, no, I'm not one of these fanboys that just tells you, oh, AMD sucks, Intel sucks, Intel's corrupt and they pay off everybody. No. I've owned, you know, I've built and had many different gaming PCs over the last 15 years. I've used Intel and AMD CPUs. The current PC I have has an i5 6600K. The last PC I had was an FX 8350. The PC before that was an i5 650. The PC that I had before that was an AMD Athlon X2. I don't remember the exact number of it. The PC before that was an Athlon 64 single core. I don't remember the number of that one either. And the PC before, the first gaming PC that I built, had a Pentium 4 in it. That was one of the first gaming PCs I built back in 2003, I believe it was. No, 2002 it was. I had a P4, can't remember. P4, it was a Prescott Core P4 oven. Really, it saved you money on your heating bill, that Pentium 4. My God, did it heat up. Of course, it was a single core back then. But I'm not a fanboy. Same with graphics cards. I currently own an NVIDIA card. My last 2 cards were AMD. I've owned 3 NVIDIA cards in my life. 3 NVIDIA cards, and I think I've had about 5 ATI AMD cards over the last 15 years. So again, I'm not a fanboy. I tend to look at the market and say, right, where can I get the best deal? Because I don't like this anti-consumer rhetoric that's trotted out by fanboys. That's basically what they are. Fanboys are anti-consumer. And I'm very pro-consumer. I want, you know, people to get a good deal, and competition is healthy. Competition is good for PC gaming. Competition helps drive sales. Having a price war means we get better products at lower prices. It's good for everyone. That's why I think it's bad that, it's been bad the last 5 years that Intel have nearly had a monopoly on the sort of CPU market in terms of gaming, I think. And AMD kind of competed in the budget, but in terms of the enthusiast and the mid-range, I sort of thought that AMD really struggled to compete with Intel, and that's bad. And that's bad for the consumer, because the biggest benefit of PC gaming is choice. Okay, that is the reason to be a PC gamer, is choice, and having less choice is bad. Okay, that's the biggest advantage of PC gaming. I always talk about this, like, what's the biggest advantage over console gaming? Well, it's choice, really, isn't it? You get way more choice in terms of resolutions and frame rates, and now you've got things like choice over which CPU you buy, which again is only a pro-consumer move, really. Only if you're a fanboy, you're very anti-consumer. Again, we'll take a look at the console market, which does really well because of competition. The competition between Microsoft and Sony is good, and Nintendo coming in with the Switch, adding to that competition, again, is only good for the consumer. The consumer wins when there is competition, okay? That's what these fanboys hate you mentioning, is that they're very anti-consumer. They don't like, having Sony have a monopoly in the console market would be a disaster for that market. Having Microsoft, again, having a monopoly, disaster, okay? Having one company dominate is bad. It's not what we want. It's very, very anti-consumer. We keep using that word, anti-consumer. I like that word. But I'm very pro-consumer. I like choice. I like having the choice. So I hope Ryzen does well. I actually hope it does well out there, because again, it just helps PC gaming. It makes PC gaming more accessible. I think it was good that we see Nvidia, at least, and AMD as well, compete in the mid-range of graphics cards with the 1060 and the RX 480. I think that is we win at the end of the day. PC gamers win over this. Console gamers win when Microsoft and Sony compete with each other, because you get exclusives and you get free, you get games with gold. I still don't agree with charging you for online, and the free games which you have to pay a subscription for are another issue. But I think it's a pro consumer to have competition ultimately. So I hope that Ryzen 7 does well. I'll be more interested to see the Ryzen 5 compete with the Core i5s, and we'll have a look at them when they come out. Will I build a Ryzen system? As someone who owns owns a Intel Skylake system, I just don't see the point in going from Skylake to Ryzen right now. That's my biggest thing. But there's a lot of people who are building a PC for the first time, and there's a lot of people who are upgrading from older systems, people upgrading from the FX series of CPUs. Probably that will be a huge upgrade. It looks to be a huge upgrade. You guys are really winning with Ryzen. You can keep your AMD CPUs, and you guys are winning there. And those who are upgrading from older Intel systems now have a choice where you go. Again, pro-consumer. So anyway, we'll leave it there. I don't believe in any of that bullshit that people are being paid off by Intel to give positive reviews or anything like that. I think it's total bullshit. Anyway, thank you for joining me, and we'll see you again soon, and goodbye.